Okay, then the answer is
John. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Town of Highland Beach Town Commission meeting, Tuesday, February 4th, 2020, at 1:30 p.m. in the Commission chambers. Kindly silence your cell phones. Thank you. Town Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner David.
present.
Commissioner Donaldson.
Here.
Commissioner Gossick-Seidman.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bobby.
Present.
Mayor Zellniker.
Here.
Town Manager Labadie.
Present.
Thank you.
Our attorney's not here yet? Or
He's
she's-
coming in right now.
Okay, good.
I will speak for him. Mr. Torcivia is officially here.
Officially here, okay. Okay, now we're going to, as soon as our town attorney sits down, we will say the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're all going to rise for the pledge, and we will have a moment of silence for our troops, here and abroad, that they should be safe. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we will have additions, deletions, and approval of the agenda. And I would like to make an addition. I would like to add a discussion about the incident that Mr. Goldstein described at our last commission meeting. So that my commissioners know, I have been approached by a number of people in the audience and in the community that wish the commission to discuss the incident that Mr. Goldstein described at our last commission meeting and what action we as policymakers can make. Because of the sensitive nature of the incident, we must give it the appropriate attention it deserves. I'd like this placed immediately following public comments. So I need a vote from my fellow commissioners to approve it. Commissioner David?
Yes.
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 Thank you. So we will discuss this immediately following the comments.
So is there a motion to
Is it a
approve
motion
the
or-
agenda as amended?
Or does anyone else have anything else they want to
I had a question under new business item A and B. I'm wondering if we should reverse that order, or are we okay in that order? Are you okay? with that?
I
What
actually
difference does it make?
had a comment on that. It's my own item, but it was suggested by our lovely clerk, Lynelda Gaskins, that I be a contact point for community greening, but I don't know that that's really necessary. And perhaps the whole project should go to the Board of Natural Resources. I'm just throwing that out as a possibility because it should be their expertise. I mean, I know the plants in my yard, but I'm no expert. So would that be acceptable? We were just trying to figure out a contact point. They could review our community greening discussion of 4 weeks ago, and then maybe be the contact person, the chair of that board.
That makes a lot of
That'd be
sense.
okay?
So you're
Absolutely.
removing
I
both
think-
of them?
Yes, ma'am. I don't need to be the contact person. I can weigh in about
Right.
coconut trees.
Okay.
Okay. So now we have to have a vote on the
That be acceptable? to
new
everyone?
agenda. We'll vote.
Okay, move to accept the agenda as amended.
Twice.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We will now have the Civility Pledge.
Okay, Pledge of Civility. We will be respectful of one another even when we disagree. We will direct all comments to the issue. We will avoid personal attacks. Politeness costs so little, by Abraham Lincoln.
Presentations and proclamations, we have none today. Public comments and requests for non-agenda items only. but we just added something, but that can come under here. Public comments are now open. Each speaker will be allowed 5 minutes to speak on a non-agenda item only. All comments will be directed to the commission as a body through the presiding officer. Please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Carol Wittenberg. Thank you.
My name is Carol Whitman.
Wait, is it on? And put it closer to her.
Thanks. My name is Carol Wittenberg, and I live at 3912 South Ocean Boulevard. On November 18th, 2019, my husband and I finally, after 7 years, homesteaded happily here in Highland Beach, Florida. We have described Highland Beach to our friends and family as our very special little corner of the world, our paradise. Needless to say that when we heard Mr. Goldstein painfully recount his son and granddaughter's horrific experience with the Nazis just 1.5 miles away from where my husband and I had happily just made our home, we were horrified, incredulous, saddened, and disturbed. We have been to Dachau and Terezin, 2 of the World War II concentration camps, and the final message at the camp was never again. At the time, my husband and I wanted to believe that. However, never again was not the case. After I heard Mr. Goldstein's story, that same night on TV, there was a news report about anti-Semitism at Boca Raton High School. A young Jewish boy had organized a website where students who had been recipients of anti-Semitism could record these stories of harassment so they would not be alone. On January 21st, 2020, Lois Solomon from the Sun Sentinel wrote an article about a 16-year-old Boca Raton high school student reporting that the student was victimized by a young male at the student for wearing a Jewish star. He harassed her by calling her a dirty Jew and telling her that she should burn in the ovens. He took strips of blue tape that were on the bulletin board over her locker and made a swastika out of the tape. On January 27, 2020, this was the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, another concentration camp located in Poland. In 2005, the United Nations General Assembly designated January 27th as the annual International Holocaust Remembrance Day. I commend the Goldsteins, Lois Solomon, and the Sun Sentinel for coming forward and reporting these vicious acts of hatred. A friend of mine told me to be careful when addressing this issue. We must be like the Goldsteins and Lois Solomon. We cannot be afraid to condemn bigotry in any form, and we should be more afraid of not acting. We must remember that the true villain in all of this is apathy. Therefore, I would like to hear from the leaders of our community today. What are your thoughts on these vicious acts of hostility, and what actions can you take to combat this display of prejudice? We must protect our children and our grandchildren. We must teach them to love and to not have animosity. To my knowledge, this was the first time that there had been contempt and it had reared its ugly head in our community. Let's make it our last.
Fred Rosen. Thank you. By the way, thank you. And I know there were a number of people that requested that I put this on the agenda. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Fred Rosen, Bramer Isle. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Before I get to what I wanted to talk about, I also wanted to thank Peggy for her efforts in working with Tallahassee. I think it's going to make a big difference in our crosswalks and what we need to do. We currently have an ordinance that stops any kind of construction on Saturdays and holidays. And I would like the commission to consider discussing or putting this on the agenda for the next meeting, allowing low-impact contractors in, meaning electricians, plumbers, painters. In big communities, it really hurts because there are things that are trying to get done in the building, and needless to say, if the front gates aren't allowing people in, or the private homes in the back streets, it's just, it takes more time, it's more expensive, and I'd like you to consider doing that. As far as A1A is concerned, I would say you would allow contractors to come in on low-impact projects as long as they can park in the driveways along A1A. It's just been a pain for big communities and also individual people who just want to have somebody come in during a weekend or during a holiday and get a job done that doesn't impact anybody. If you consider it, I thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Paul, please.
Paul Resnick, Bramer Isle, 4740. I'd like to get the help of the commission to get something done. I think I've been here before on the same issue. Over in Boca Highlands, it's several communities, and one of the communities is Grand K, which is a bunch of single-family homes. Those of us living on the north side of Bramer Isle have been looking at, I think they started about 35 or 40-foot pilings, 10 of them behind a house back there. This project has been going on well over, I'll say, a year to 18 months, and nothing has happened. There's still pilings sitting there. I've been talking to the building department, and the latest discussion I had with them is, can't discuss it with you because we got a lawyer's letter from the owners there. So I don't know why a lawyer's letter should stop anything from happening. I'd like to see the commission direct the building department to have them, SHIT or get off the pot and finish it, or pull the pilings out of the water so that we don't have to look at pilings anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anybody else have any comments to make at this meeting? Yes, John?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity. I'm John Shoemaker, Highland Beach Club. First, I have 3 topics. I have spent a number of hours reviewing all of the videos going back 2019 and 2018 of town meetings and workshops. If you haven't done it, it is an eye-opener. I have learned an awful lot, more than I ever thought. But anyways, it was a remarkable experience. I think the effectiveness of the videos is excellent. And I think the way it was done, presented, it really was helpful. Secondly, Peggy, I got to give you a lot of credit. I've seen from John Ross's report how effective you were in going up to Tallahassee and getting money. I mean, that's taking the bull by the horns and making something happen. So I obviously have to congratulate you on that. Next, Rich Pollock is here. I wanted to thank him because he gave me some names to deal with or search into the whole problem of homelessness, which is what I want to report back to you today, what I learned. And this is really more for your information, and however you view it, I have a specific concern about it. But let me share with you that I spoke with Ariana Cianco Del Rey. Her title is Population Specialist, which is unique, but she's heavily involved in the homeless situation, as well as Janet Meeks. She is the education coordinator for the town of Del Rey. But the person that had the most impact on me was this Ezra Krieg, I guess is his name, Krieg, last name. He's from Goodwill Industries. He's the local manager and works with the homeless. as the Director of Housing Initiatives. There's a lot of stuff going on here, folks. I was concerned, and I think I mentioned last time when I visited the ranger station down at the Spanish River, that what they gave me was somewhat surprising. They really are not that prepared to talk about homelessness at Spanish River, at the park, under the bridge, or wherever, and simply gave me, and this is for the chief, this, go check out the police, they can help you. And I soon learned that when it comes to homelessness and the, quote, problem of homelessness, everybody refers you, go see the police and the police chief. What are they doing? So it comes down on your back at some point. Now, I know this is not a problem for us today. Certainly, it could be and may be a problem for us in the future. So this is really about a little foresight into what we're dealing with here. So the main issue, when you net it all out, is that homelessness is not a crime. That's been decided by the Supreme Court. And that is also the problem, because nobody knows what to do about it. That's why in my search, there are no ordinances, and politically there's a huge problem in writing anything down about the homeless, because you know it's going to be captured and used to beat you over the head. So her comment, Janet Meeks, said that she's just simply not optimistic about anything that's written in the way of an ordinance. For Del Rey, most of their homeless are longtime residents who ended up being homeless and who are mostly over 65. They do have rights, so we have to respect their rights. I'm quoting from a number of notes, and I could go into this in a whole lot more detail. But when I talked to Ezra, this man is amazing because he's really coordinating and involved in this in a direct and personal way. His feeling, too, is that since it's not illegal, you can't arrest using the police department to solve the problem. You can't do it. It creates more problems, although they can facilitate by capturing or collecting their belongings when they're not there, or by even picking them up and transporting them to facilities that could help them.
That's okay, you may continue. It's all right.
Thank you. The second point is that there's limited, if not no, housing in Palm Beach County. Well, that's changed somewhat. Ezra's team, and he has a team of 40 people who deliver a variety of services. But today, in Palm Beach County, well, as of 2012, I should say, they had 1,600 homeless in the county. And they have since built a housing with beds, 65 beds in them. That is clearly not enough, because that was 2012, and it has expanded. Since then, there has not been a good, effective census, so to speak, of the problem. Lake Worth is building a facility in the next year that will house 80 beds. So that's kind of interesting, that there's at least something available on a county basis. And in all cases, the police departments are proactive and are considered positive influences to helping address the problem. Ezra also goes on to say that the tactic today is to keep the homeless moving. Don't let them settle, keep them moving, which is kind of a tough thing to do. In Del Rey, they have about 100 homeless that are roaming the streets, running around. He and his team provides some bed units. They have a vehicle that will give them showers at times, and also food. So my big question at the time is, okay, we've got this Milani Park. What do we do since we're starting from scratch and we really don't have a homeless problem and we don't want to tax the police department with another issue on their list to deal with? He said it all comes down, whatever you do with the park. And he was somewhat familiar with the park. Apparently this park is well known, more than I thought. But what he suggested is that whatever you do, whoever designs this park has got to take into account critical things like lighting. Lighting is a major concern in that if you have enough lighting, that also is a deterrent in a way, as well as how you landscape is a deterrent, and the facilities you provide. Now, I say deterrent, but we want to be helpful. We want to provide guidance, but we don't want, people to plant themselves for weeks at a time. And here's the thing that he mentioned that woke me up. As a practice, the homeless tend to cluster. Once one or two come in, you can bet the word goes out and you then have a cluster and you will have a much bigger problem. Now, the other things that they are concerned about is medical support, because you obviously don't want homeless running around with diseases of all types. So they do have a medical van, a shower van, and they provide food through the churches. And for Del Rey, those who are interested in helping the homeless, the third Wednesday of every month, they have a meeting at St. Matthew's Church, which is a big deal. A lot of people come and they talk about what they can do, the nature of the problem, what they are providing, what's on the schedule. It's a lot of information and action, not just talk. So, in essence, for what we're trying to do as a town with Milani Park, these are the things that we have to consider in the design architecture of the park, as well as our whole approach and attitude towards homeless, which we all certainly feel very bad about the homeless situation, and it's everywhere in the U.S. So, unless there's any questions, that would be my report to all of you.
All right, thank you. Let me ask my commissioners. Commissioner David?
Thank you. That's a lot of information and very well put. Thank you for your efforts.
No, thank you, John. Very, very good. I think, the more aware we are of the resources available to the community, the better off we are. So certainly appreciate the information and the effort you put into it. Thank you.
Peggy?
Yes, thank you also, John. I know I see these people in Del Rey, Boca sometimes, and I do feel very badly that there are problems, but it's good to know how other cities are combating it, so thank you.
Okay.
Oh, wait, Greg?
Insightful and thanks.
Yeah, I also say thank you, but I'm sure you're aware, you've been in the Army, you're an Army career person, right? Most of those veterans over 65, sometimes I speak to them, I see them on the street, whatever. They're all veterans, a lot of them, not all of them, but lots of them are veterans. And it's up to us in our society to do something with our government for our veterans. There are a lot of problems with veterans. I don't have the answers, but they can do a much better job than they're doing now. And it breaks my heart. My own brother was in Vietnam. And when, these guys, they come and they have a Vietnam hat on, and they're homeless. It really does break my heart. But I feel the problem, and we all kind of know, again, is mental illness. We don't have proper facilities, but I do know our policemen, is that right, Chief? Sometimes we have to Baker Act somebody. Is that correct? Yes. In other words, our police are on it. We do the best we can. And I know we're all concerned about Milani Park and who they bring in. But it's not a fait accompli yet, and I'm sure whatever we do in Milani Park will be for the good of everybody, because everyone's working on it. And the other issue is drugs. What are we doing with the drug problem in America? It's not a Delray problem or Highland Beach problem or Boca. I do volunteer work at Boca Helping Hands. You should see the people coming in just like us, looking just like us, and they're lower income families, and they come in. And you feed them, you help them. But this is excellent information. The more that the public is aware of the problem, maybe something will happen. People have to speak up on behalf of our veterans. Thank you.
If I can add, may I?
Yes,
just
please.
a sub-note to your comments. And it is true, I'm an Army infantry veteran, and it is and has been a concern of mine with Veterans Affairs and support for the veterans. But I will say, the notion that veterans, a lot of them are homeless, or a lot of the homeless are veterans,
veteran, yeah.
is a bit exaggerated, and it's unfortunate. It's real, but it's not nearly at the numbers. But that's complicated because there's not a good way of taking a consensus, because there's also a lot of homeless men in particular who are fake military veterans.
They say that they are and they're not.
Yeah,
That's true.
And I have personally qualified enough to know that it's a real problem.
Yeah, it's a problem.
So the fake veterans, stolen honor, so to speak, is a problem. But I think more of a problem is mental illness for sure, from the people I've talked to. Secondarily is the drug issue. And third is, frankly, they've just given up either looking for a job or have a lack of skills or have not made the commitment to learn anything. So what Delray is doing also is providing a way to get them cleaned up. That's the first step. Get some food in them, and then get them oriented to get some training for job training that can get them out of this homeless state. So I just wanted to add that a little bit because I appreciate your sensitivity to the veterans, but I also don't want to have it exaggerated so that when people see a homeless, oh, there's another veteran. That's not the case at all. Okay, well, thank you very
Unfortunately,
much.
they wear those hats.
But thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Meetings are at
Speak into the microphone, please, if someone else wants to take
Somebody just asked again, the meetings in Delray, the third Wednesday of every month at St. Matthew's Church. I don't have the address. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Now, we have added to place immediately the following comments, and actually I put it on the agenda. And we were going to discuss this discussion about the incident that Mr. Goldstein described at our last commission meeting. And before we go into the commissioner's thoughts, I would like to ask our town manager and our attorney to make some comments. So, town manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I know that you brought this to my attention, as did Mrs. Wittenberg, on this information, on this topic that Mr. Goldstein presented. Police are still amidst the investigation to try to figure out what exactly happened, but that's ongoing. But what I would say is, from an operational perspective, we have a zero-tolerance policy. We strictly prohibit any discrimination or harassing practices and actions based on a whole host of issues, especially religion, ethnicity, color, gender, sexual preference, national origin, citizenship. All that stuff's covered. We have a zero-tolerance policy. That is what we believe in. It's on the books, and every commissioner has made that clear to me, as well as any interactions I've had with residents. We just don't tolerate it, and that's our policy. Now, on other things, I know we had discussed, is there something that the commission could do? You could either reaffirm or pass a resolution with, in so many words, as to reaffirm your position of this zero tolerance against discrimination in some sense. We could put something together for the commission to consider, just to make sure it's even further clear to not only the community and the residents, but to staff that, again, this is what our position is, and that might be of some assistance or some help or something, some type of tool you could use to make that statement.
And Attorney Tresivia, what are some other towns doing, and what would the language be?
Well, as Marshall said, you could adopt a resolution, for example, reaffirming your commitment against discrimination or harassment. You could talk in terms of the zero tolerance. You can talk in terms of promoting diversity. So it's you can make it more positive in that way, in terms of not just being negative in that we prohibit these things like discrimination or harassment, but you also promote things like inclusiveness or diversity. There may even be a possibility of, a letter to the legislature. I'm not sure if the hate crimes law, for example, needs to be strengthened. I haven't looked at that law in a long time, but there are laws against hate crime. So there's a variety of tools that you have to communicate the position of the commission on this topic.
Okay, I thank you. And I'll start just by giving a quote from Albert Einstein. "The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch evil and do nothing. So on that note, what would this governing body like to do, if anything? And we'll start with Evelyn David.
I find the whole situation disgusting, quite frankly. That being said, we can pass a resolution, you can do a lot of those things, but in point of fact, that will have very little effect. We do live in a country that has free speech. If the police are notified of something, which I recommend everybody, if you see something, say something, they can have them move along, but they can't make them stop saying what they want to say. That's free speech. We all have it. We may not like what people say, but it's part of our country. And I may not agree with you, but boy, I'll defend to the death your right to say what you want to say. You're right, we can affirm and say, no, we're not going to tolerate that here. But that's only good up to a point. So I'm willing to listen to what anybody else has to say, that they think we can do something and not just say we don't want it, because we all know we don't want it. There are hate crime laws, and this is not acceptable behavior. In a school situation, that's the school has to punish the children who do that. And the school has a lot more control over behavior than we do as a commission or than the police do in a town like this, because school is it's a completely different situation. But I'd like to hear other people's suggestions.
Okay, Commissioner Donaldson.
Yes, I did talk to Mr. Goldstein after the meeting and chatted with him a little bit about, apologize, first of all, and had told him, we just aren't that kind of community. We don't want to be that kind of community. As far as where we go from here, I think the scope of this is beyond what we can talk about right here, right now. One thing I might suggest is we may want to give consideration to a special town meeting dedicated solely to this topic. I think we could certainly identify someone to come in who could help educate us a little bit, raise our awareness. We can have the community give us feedback, talk to us more in depth on their experiences. We can do a little research into what other communities are doing. And from that, then I think we can develop a bit more of an education, awareness, and public stance position on this, and just raise the level of notice to other people in other communities that this is a town that will not hate.
Thank you. Commissioner Simon.
I'm appalled by it, frankly. I've never seen that before in my existence. I wouldn't mind a resolution if we all agree, or some kind of a statement that states we will not tolerate this kind of behavior and make it known publicly. We certainly have resolutions for a lot lesser things, like community greening. No, they're great. But, we've had past resolutions to support other towns' efforts, and certainly this would be an incident that we will not tolerate this kind of behavior against any group of people or persons. But specifically in this case, I'm still shocked. So I would propose a resolution if we all agree. Make it simple.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I echo Marshall's comments. I echo exactly Commissioner David's comments. I'm open to Commissioner Donaldson's suggestion. Happy to pass a resolution. It doesn't do anything. It's a feel-good resolution, but that's fine. If that makes people feel better, I'm open to all of that.
Okay. Well, I think it's very clear that Highland Beach will not tolerate indifference. Highland Beach will respond to discrimination of any kind. And Highland Beach will not tolerate bigotry, racism, and anti-Semitism. And the attorney said we could We could even take it further and write a letter to our legislatures to make something tighter. And I have to say, and I'm very proud of Pope Francis for helping condemn growing anti-Semitism around the world. He said, by the way, the same day we had our incident, January 20th, 2020, recently we have witnessed a barbaric resurgence of cases of anti-Semitism. Once more, I firmly condemn every form of anti-Semitism. Those are the words of Pope Francis. I think to say nothing and to do nothing is wrong. And I feel very strongly a simple resolution. We're all aware of free speech. And this is not about the two men who did this. This resolution is sending out a signal to people in our community that we have a resolution and that we do not tolerate this. And it's not just anti-Semitism. It's racism, it's bigotry towards others that are different. And I think it's good to put it on record in the public of a short resolution stating these facts, and to send that resolution to the legislature, making them aware that we had this incident and that we would like to put it on record. That's all. It's not about free speech, and it's not about anything other than taking a stand to do what's right. Peggy?
Well, Madam Mayor, I wanted to point out that last summer, our Representative Mike Caruso sponsored and was passed in the Florida legislature a bill against anti-Semitism specifically. If you'd like to just read it to the audience or just
you could read
reference it.
Yeah, read it to me.
This is from actually the Times of Israel, but it was covered pretty much nationally, internationally. A freshman U.S. Republican lawmaker in Florida has introduced a bill, which did pass, that would add a controversial definition of anti-Semitism to laws barring discrimination in the state education system. The amendment proposed by Caruso uses as its template the State Department definition of anti-Semitism, which includes calls for violence against Jews, advancing conspiracy theories about Jewish control and Holocaust denial, double standards, and requiring behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation. So there is a law in the books, so we could perhaps follow
there's
up on
something
what
we
you're
could
saying.
do to the people who do
No, I
it.
understand, but I'm saying that they are fully aware of it at the state level, so maybe we could certainly send a letter.
Actually, President Trump had just made a resolution from the government. So I feel we should as well. We're a small municipality. We never had this occur. And put it on the record. Put it on the record. I would like someone to make a motion to give this to Marshall to work with Mr. Trusivia and to come back at the March 3rd meeting with a resolution.
Mayor, you don't want to make the motion?
I'm not allowed, am I allowed?
Sure you can.
Yeah? All right, that's my motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. And a roll call vote.
Mayor Zellniker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett-Seidman,
Yes.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bobby.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
And I thank you all very much. Thank you. And thank you for coming out. We appreciate that. Now we go on to announcements.
This is probably out of order, but I'm not surprised, but people that I represent, and I thank you all.
You could say it on the tape. You could get up and say it. Yes, you may. So
What I
you're on
said
record.
was, I'm not surprised because we have a wonderful commission, and I thank you all for understanding how this is so important. And I repeat, the victim in all of this is apathy, and I'm not seeing it here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay. We'll continue then. Okay, announcements. Board vacancies, Board of Adjustment and Appeals, 3 vacancies for a 3-year term. Code Enforcement Board, 1 vacancy for an unexpired term ending July 1, 2020, and 1 vacancy for an unexpired term ending August 1st, 2021. Financial Advisory Board, 1 upcoming vacancy for an unexpired term ending April 30th, 2022. Meetings and events. Planning Board meeting, February 13th, 2020, 9:30 a.m. Then we had on here, Marshall, you had on here Town Commission meeting, and I think that's been canceled because I have to say, Marshall has nothing for the agenda.
We have no new business, so we've
No new
gotten through
business.
some backlog of stuff. I'm excited to say that after about 16 months that we've kind of hit a final lull for a moment while we gear and move into the next stuff. So there won't be a meeting on the 18th, but we will come back on the 3rd, as you'll see from
March 3rd.
March 3rd. And then
And we'll have our resolution.
We'll have a lot more
Okay.
stuff back in the queue for that meeting.
Very good, thank you. Town Hall is closed, February 17th, 2020, in observance of President's Day. Board action reports, none.
If a little bit of lenience, I know that the Census Committee has done a few things, and they have an update after the agenda went out, and I forgot to catch it. If to ask if it would add, would the commission be okay with the Census Committee giving a quick update?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Tarisha Cuevas, Chairperson of the Census Complete Count Committee. Just everyone, reminder, census is 5 weeks away. Be on the lookout in the mail. You'll be getting your invitation card, which will have your ID on there. You enter that in online. You can do it computer, smartphone, any way that you see fit. And if you need some help, March 25th, you can come into the library. We're having a census response night. With that, the Census Committee had our final meeting on January 29th. At that meeting, we finalized all of the initiatives that we will be putting forward over the next 5 weeks. And with that, we've designed a new logo for the town of Highland Beach, our census logo. So everyone will start seeing that around town. I'll pass that around. And we also finalized a design for lawn signs. That'll include the Highland Beach Census logo, as well as the dates that are important. If any property owners would like to have a lawn sign on their property, please contact me. We'd be willing to give out as many as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for a great report. Thank you. You're certainly getting the word out. There we go. Maybe we can have some of those and put them in the car windows. We used to do that in elections. Yes? Yes, Doug. Mr. Hillman. Mayor-elect Hillman.
Doug Hillman, Dalton Place. Just a follow-up to our chairperson, if I may. Any people that are in condos or private homes, it is essential that we get your permission to put the signs up. So, anybody here in a private home? Raise your hand, please.
Greg is.
Might we put a sign up on your property? You got one here. Might we put a sign up? You got two there.
How about
Those-
Peggy? Peggy.
Got three. Might we put a sign up? Thank you. We have three. Those of, okay. Those of you that don't know, it's critical for the census for a number of reasons. The most important reason is there are some 435 representatives in the House of Representatives. Each state gets representation there based on the population that's in their state. The census is done every 10 years. In 2010, our state got an additional 4 representatives. We anticipate we might get as many as 3 more this year. But if you don't fill out the census form that you get, we're not going to get more representatives. If a lot of people don't fill it out, we might lose representation. Obviously, the more representatives we have there, the more power we have. Money comes from representation there. The money that we get is used for schools, bridges, roads, infrastructure, and the kind of money that Peggy is going after for us for our crossroads, for our crosswalks, and our own infrastructure like our swales, the flooding that's on the streets. So it's critical that these get filled out. That enough? Want more? No. Okay. Okay. Now, those of us that are in condos, anybody that lives in a condo that is on A1A in particular, very important that you go to your boards and convince the board to allow us to put the sign up on A1A. It's only going to be up there for, what is it, 2 weeks? So it's quick. So please, check with your boards, convince your boards to let us get those signs up. If you need any help, call our chairperson. She'll come down, I'll come down, we'll all come down, okay, twist their arms. 2 weeks, it's quick, it's essential that we get these signs up, okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now continue. We're up to number 9, ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 20-001, amending Chapter 6, Building and Structures, Article 5, seawalls, bulkheads, retaining walls, and amending Chapter 30, Zoning Code. Article 4, zoning districts, second reading. This is a second reading, so we've had many discussions on it. So I will start with Commissioner David. Do you have any other comments on it?
Well, I want to know how far back this can go. When I was looking at this, I noticed that there was only really a few changes that were made. Most of it had to do with giving the authority to the planning board to make final decision. So a lot of what's in here is already applicable. And yet there are some things such as the marina problem at Grand Cay that don't seem to have followed a lot of this. And I was wondering how we could go back and find out what their permits actually said, what didn't it say, and why are they not following the regulations that we have in place?
Does that pertain to this ordinance? Or that's?
Yeah, no, it does because it's a marina.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying to go back, yeah. But you're talking about a specific
I'm talking about
situation.
specific, I mean, going forward, I believe all of us here are committed to making sure all our rules and regulations are followed. And we do understand that we have no control over what was done in the past. However, that being said, sometimes things get missed, and perhaps we should make sure that they're not missed and that they're fixed. And I do know that you can't hold somebody to new regulations, but I'm not talking about something that we're changing. I'm talking about something that was already there that perhaps might not have been enforced, that should be enforced.
Do you want any changes on this ordinance? We're talking about just the ordinance.
This ordinance, no. I have.
That's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
I have no problem with this ordinance and giving the control to the planning board. I think
Okay.
that's an appropriate use of their time, and it's appropriate to take some of the burden away from the commission.
Thank you. Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes, I'm in favor of this as is. I think we sort of, the way this all works is, of course, we have an ordinance, we get this on the books. If there's a problem, then it sort of flips into the enforcement side. Certainly, we continue to hear problems about this particular location that was brought up. I know we are pursuing it. I'm sure it'll be dealt with. So we're kind of between policy and enforcement. This dealing with policy, I'm happy with it. I'm ready to move ahead.
Thank you. Peggy?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I know I'm for this ordinance, and I know that we've been talking about this since 2018. I actually brought my list of the things we've been talking about since March 2018, which I'll proceed to distribute to the current commission in future. But I know we had a discussion about perhaps retaining or obtaining a marine specialist to come in and review plans. Are we anywhere with that, Mr. Labadie? Or are we just still talking about it?
Yes, yes, and yes. There's
Okay.
3 things in there. I'll give an update on 1006
Thank you.
Grand Court with the manager's report. I will give you a blow-by-blow where that is. Marine facilities expert, yes, we got that in place. We have a few little pieces contractually to work with them on, but that's in place, yes.
Okay, great, awesome. And I know we had talked when we had a visit from the head of the area Army Corps of Engineers here, who suggested that we actually survey the 2 lakes in town. We own those, the town of Highland Beach, so that's something that we could maybe work with down the road. But otherwise, I'm glad to get this rolling and get this authority in to give us guidance and proceed. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
I've said a lot on this ordinance in the past, and I'm happy with the condition it's in, so I'm glad we're doing the second reading.
Good, okay, so I agree. We've discussed this ad nauseum, and this was just simply to approve this on the second reading. Yes?
Yes, I have just a problem with a typo.
Okay, typo?
On page 12, at the top of the page, in section B, it says, proposed perpendicular docking and related accessory marine facilities will reasonably deny, and it should probably be, will not reasonably deny.
Good catch.
Good catch. Well, she's an attorney, so she got it. Showing up the male attorneys. Good. Okay, at this point, this is the second reading of Ordinance 20-001. Okay, and you gave us the information, and we had our discussion. At this time, public comments are now open about this ordinance. Does anyone have anything to say about it? Seeing no one raising their hand, we're going back to commission discussion, but I think at this point, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance number 20-001 on second and final reading?
I so move.
Okay, second, I need
I'll second it.
roll call, please.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bobby,
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett-Sideman.
Yes.
And Mayor Zellniker.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're up to ordinance number 20-002, street parking. An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 16, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Article 1, in general, by modifying the current regulations and removing outdated provisions, and to allow for on-street parking in certain situations, providing for the repeal of laws in conflict, providing for codification and severability, and providing for an effective date. So this is the first reading of ordinance number 20-002. We have discussed this many meetings, many too many. And I'm going to go to the vice mayor for this one. Are you happy with this finally?
You hitting me first?
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to go first?
Okay, fine. No problem.
I'd like to go first. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor and Mayor, because I was the lone no last time around we were discussing this. And since then, some things have come to light, and I wanted to share them, and I will provide copies to the clerk to produce to the other people on the commission and the public. Anyway, so we've had 4 surveys on parking, one by the town, one by two by residents, including the Bellito Association, one by Vice Mayor Bobby. And at last meeting, the one by the Bellito board was not conclusive or tabulated. It was just hearsay and talk. So I was not happy to move forward until we clarified some things. And I'm happy to report that we have numbers on that survey, and they coincide very closely to the numbers on the other surveys. And so they basically uphold this as written with just a few areas of question. One were the cul-de-sacs and the other the mailboxes, 2 areas that do get clogged up. The federal law is 15 feet on each side of the mailbox, and our states just don't block the mailbox. We do have a situation where you have 2 new mail people delivering, and one does not remove herself from the truck to get to the mailbox. If it's blocked, they continue driving, which is federally allowable. And I can tell you people have gone to the post office in Boca to get mail. So I don't know if we want to include the 15 feet or just do it on a case-by-case basis. But everyone seems to be, there are some no's on the 7 questions of the Bellito Association, but the no's in general were more geared toward overnight parking and RV parking on the streets And the majority of people do agree with the town's original survey, which is good to know. So I'm in favor of moving on. I did find an old 2008 parking ordinance, which just by chance I found in my files, which I'll provide to the town manager. It's just interesting to see where we were back 12 years ago. And lastly, I just want to, I brought this report from when I got elected, and we started working on this at my proposal in April of 2018, and it was brought up again May, October, November, December of 18, and again June of 19. So not only do we have the history as printed on this, but it has been long talked about. So I think I'm for getting it on the books, and if we have to tweak it in a year, as the Vice Mayor and I discussed with other ordinances, we'll look at it then. But I'm just happy that it worked out for everyone in the majority rules. And I'm just very happy the majority rules on this. Thank you.
So you're approving this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm very happy.
Okay, Vice Mayor, just say yes or no. Okay, that's okay.
Well, I'm glad to hear that your revised, or the revised information survey is now more aligned, so it makes a lot of sense.
Good.
Not a lot more to say besides I think we should just move this forward. I mean, this is what the police chief recommended and the town manager recommended, so I'm still very much in favor of it. I understand the 15 feet federal setback on mailboxes. I don't think we should really do that. I don't think we need to. I don't think we have any problems. We can always edit it later on if there's an issue.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yeah, I'm good with it in current form. Thank you.
Okay, and Commissioner David?
Well, I don't think it matters if we add the 15 feet in here or not. We're still subject to it because federal trumps Highland Beach. That being said, we've discussed this to death.
Right.
I'm happy with anything short of banning all on-street parking. There are only 4 areas that it applies to in this town. 2 of them are irrelevant because it's all either driveways or mailboxes, so you can't park on those streets regardless. The other 2 streets, if people don't like it, let them do it street by street, as long as it's reasonable. Let them decide within their own neighborhoods what they want or don't want. That being said, I do have one question. Section 16-7, which talks about commercial vehicle parking on private property, and when Section B of that, when it says that commercial vehicles applies to taxis and limos, and I'm questioning if this would stop limos and taxis from picking people up after 6 p.m. and before, between 6 p.m. and 8 a.m., because I know I've had occasion in the past where a car sits and waits for you, and that's in essence parking or standing. But I don't want to stop people from having limos and Ubers and taxis coming and getting them.
No, I do not believe this is really related to when parked permanently at your home, it cannot be visible from the street. If they're picking you up for whatever reasons, that's not an issue.
Can we clarify that, please, so that people don't get the wrong idea, that they know that it's parked permanently or parked overnight as opposed to just standing and waiting for you? You're late coming out of a party or something like that?
Would
Unattended.
you like a word
that
like?
would work, if we just put in the word unattended.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think anyone reads our ordinances anyway, I'm sorry. But it's okay, you're right, it should be done right, absolutely. It was a very good suggestion, thank you. Okay, so can we, I'm asking the town attorney, can we approve this with the correction?
Yep.
Okay, so we need a motion. Well, actually, at this time, before we do that, public comments are now open. Dr. Greenwald, you live there. Any other comments? It's fine. All right, we have the blessing of Dr. Greenwald. We're good. Well, he lives there. Okay. No other comments at this time? Okay, we'll continue, and I need the motion to approve ordinance number 20-002 on first reading with the corrections. With the
I'll make the motion to approve ordinance 20-002 with the amendments as stated.
right.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Bobby?
Yes.
Commissioner Gossick-Seidman?
Yes.
Commissioner David?
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes.
And Mayor Zellniker?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Mayor,
Happily,
may I
yes.
make one more motion,
Yes.
just to kind of
Anything you
clean
want.
things up? Can I make a motion to cancel the proposed survey of the Bellito Homeowners Association? That's one of the things we put forward in the last meeting.
Do we need a motion to do that?
Or can we just make sure it's canceled so we don't leave the town manager in a precarious state of not knowing what to do with that?
Yes.
Yes, if I could just get a general nod that we don't need to pursue that any longer, because I don't know that's an appropriate venue for such activity.
So let's just say aye if we don't want him to proceed.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, you got it, Chief.
Are we good? Is that okay? Perfect. Now we go on to the consent agenda. Here we go. Nomination to appoint Michael Triboni as a member to the Code Enforcement Board to serve an unexpired term ending May 28, 2020. He came before this commission for the Board of Adjustments and Appeals. So we did interview him already, and we all agreed he was very good. So now he's switched. He's now going to be on the Code Enforcement if we approve him. Okay, now we have a commission discussion on this candidate. Is there anyone who wants to say anything?
If it's a consent agenda, you really don't need to
You don't
discuss
need
it.
it.
Just move it if you're so inclined,
Okay.
unless you really
And
want to
Mayor,
discuss
I
it.
believe we interviewed him for the planning board. Wasn't he the
Of the planning
NASA
board, yes.
engineer, Grumman? Okay, then that'd be great.
Okay. At this time, are there any public comments about this appointment? I seeing none. Okay, I'll say, is there a motion to nominate Michael Triboni as member to the Code Enforcement Board to serve an unexpired term ending May 28th, 2022? I need a motion, a second, and then we have to say aye or nay.
I make a motion to appoint Michael Triboni.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Need a
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Unfinished business, none. New business. And we're taking off item number 12 because we're moving it to the Environmental Advisory Board.
What would be 12A?
12A.
Right.
12A we're taking. And so you still want 12B? I thought you said to take both of them off. A and B.
Well, I had proposed a resolution to allow community greening, which I believe Ms.
Okay,
Gaskins...
so you want B to be discussed?
Briefly,
Okay, it doesn't matter.
briefly.
Okay, so we're up to B, discussion on mutually partnering with Community Greening, Inc., a nonprofit organization, and I'll hand this over to Commissioner Gossick-Seidman.
Well, yes, thank you. This follows their presentation of a month ago with the two gentlemen who founded this nonprofit tree canopy process which has worked beautifully in Delray Beach. If you look at the intersection of I-95 on the northwest corner, I-95 and Atlantic Avenue, they've planted 75 trees, and they're sprucing up many areas of the South County. Also working now in West Palm at the Rosemary Square, what used to be City Place. The idea that we propose and adopt a resolution, like officially working with them, is not any kind of financial burden. It gives them the benefit and us the benefit to go after actually state and federal funding for this, and showing that we've got a mutual respect agreement. I just think that the follow-up of this area should be the Natural Resources Board, because it's sort of an obvious fit. And if we get something on, I know they're coming to Spring Fling, the community greening, and if we have something that shows we have a mutual working arrangement, it benefits everyone. That was my proposal, and I believe Linelda did draft up that resolution.
I have not drafted the resolution. We have to get the content.
Okay,
for the
so we need the
resolution.
content. So basically, it would be a mutual working agreement to promote a better tree canopy within the community and have a mutual understanding that we work together on future grants and funding, hopefully.
Commissioner David?
Won't cost us anything, might make our town a little greener. It will help us get money to do that. I'm in favor of it.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yeah. I have to admit, I'm having a little heartburn about this. I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in trying to get this town to improve itself. It was not very successful. I've tried to take a good, solid look at this, and I'm having a difficult time feeling like this particular group is a good fit for this particular town. I have no objections to their goals, what they're trying to do. I think it's working out very well in Del Rey. I just don't think it has a good fit here. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
I'll ask Commissioner Donaldson, are there other groups you think we should be looking at? I mean, you spent more time on this than I have, so.
I think that it's absolutely proper that the Natural Resources Board that we have should be looking at these kinds of things. We, again, when we put a bow around the referendum, we also discussed the possibility of addressing this at some point, appropriate point in the future, because again, the biggest majority of the public land we have here is, unfortunately, A1A. That's going to come up again. And I think to the degree that we need to, at the right time, reintroduce that topic with such things as greening, with how hopefully the side road improvements can happen, what we may or may not have to do to deal with some of the right-of-way bike path issues are all going to come back to us. And I think if we kind of look at this in just a sort of one piece here and one piece thing somewhere else, we sort of get lost in the weeds, and we need kind of a more comprehensive idea about what we're looking at. Again, don't object to the organization, but when they have an emphasis on undertaking some of these programs on public land, we have very little to offer. When it comes to communication and interface with schools, we have no schools to offer. When it comes to the tree giveaway, yeah, who doesn't want a tree? But I find it hard to think that's the only reason to do this. I'd like the Natural Resources Board to think a little broader in terms of what's coming down the pike for them and for the planning board. And I think that's where we need to put our energies and start thinking about how we're going to fund those things and how we're going to interface on those things.
I don't have any other comments, Mayor.
No. Well, actually, I find that, again, we are a very small town, and we have ordinances on the books that are not followed. I've been talking about this for 6 years. It's like a broken record. We have an ordinance every time that somebody builds a house, every tree taken down, you're supposed to replace it. And what puzzles me is we don't have much, most of our land is private. It's private. So you're telling me they're going to buy trees for people in Highland Beach when, let's say, Riviera Beach has a very poor neighborhood and they're not going to put it in there, they're going to give it to Highland Beach? I don't know. I think what they really want, because we're very small, there's not much they can do here. You know, she knows that. But I think what they want is a resolution that we support them. And that's what we really do. We support any effort that helps the environment. I have no problem if you want to put together, if the commission decides to put together a resolution in support of them.
Well, if I could
Definitely.
follow up.
Yeah.
I had actually drafted this for Ms. Gaskins, but it didn't make it to the dais. It says, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach recognizing Community Greening as a nonprofit organization raising awareness in area municipalities as a collective effort to improve our environment for people and nature and to create sustainable green spaces and a vibrant tree canopy to equitably strengthen our environment, economy, society, and health. Now, this is no, allocation of funds.
Right.
There is no, if we decide, I'm fine with giving this to the Natural Resources Board if they'd like to look into other organizations. This is an effort that could provide us with guidelines, say when someone demos a home, instead of taking out 40 trees, you leave 3 or you replant with sustainable natural trees, those that were indigenous to our area. This is the area that we need to go in.
Yeah, but don't we have ordinances saying that? We just don't do anything with it, that's
Well,
all.
they could-
We have ordinance on the books.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we do.
But if we had a list of these are zero-escaping trees, low water, low maintenance, highly resilient to storms, we don't have such a list. This could be provided. I don't have a personal interest in this
No, I
group,
know
so
that. I
maybe
know.
other groups are out there, and I'm happy to have the board look into that. I just think we need to go into some direction where we don't clear a lot down to the bare earth with not one speck of green, and then perhaps guiding our private homeowners and anything on the municipal lands, on the 17-foot on each side of A1A, just a guideline that we can work with. That's what I'm looking
Yeah.
for.
What I'm saying,
So I'm
we
happy to
have it
give-
on the books already. That's
Yes,
what
ma'am.
concerns
Well,
me.
we can-
In other words, we can, I support the group because I think every place has to, environmentally has to have the green. If you were on a resolution saying that, but in reality, in 6 years, I wasn't able to do anything with this. Every person who builds a home in Highland Beach is supposed to have a landscape architecture, and they're supposed to give plans, and they're supposed to use native species, and it's very clear in our ordinances what they have to do. I personally have no problem supporting any group that wants to maintain the environment. So if it's a simple resolution of supporting them, fine, for me, anyway. But okay, that's up to all
Well,
of you.
why don't we redirect it and give it to the board, and let's see what they come up with, and they can give it back to us. I'm amending my first goal with this.
Okay.
And we can give this copy to them, give them the data that Community Greening provided to us originally, and see if they find a better group or no group. But it seems like we do need a list of plantings, a tree canopy that we can go for.
But it's in the ordinance, all those trees.
Well, part of it is.
Yeah, but they list the trees in the ordinance.
Okay, well then
Yeah.
let's have them look at the ordinance too.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
thank
fine.
you.
That's fine. At this time, though, because we're all discussing this, does anybody in the audience like to say anything? Public comments? Yes, John?
John Ross, Casarina. So, my friend Barry Donaldson has brought up the boogeyman of the RRR project yet again. And I think the people spoke pretty clearly about this last March. In the event that they decree that A1A needs to be resurfaced, they will resurface it, just as they did to the streets outside of Mr. Donaldson's office. You're an elected body. Elected bodies always trump bureaucratic organizations, always. If people really believe that FDOT is going to come in here, override the wishes of the people, take 25 feet on each side of the highway, knock down every single properly permitted driveway and tree on that street to put in bike lanes, they're wrong. In the first place, they'll be sued by 100% of the dwellings and the owners on A1A. In the second place, that sort of draconian thing poses a threat to Gulfstream, Ocean Ridge, and every other town along A1A, in addition to us. We would have a lot of friends on those lawsuits. The courts will take 4 or 5 years. We're now talking about 2030, 2035 before they could start filling the potholes. And in the end, that's what they're going to do. They're going to mill and fill. You all know what milling is. That's when they make the road funny with the ruts in it so that blacktop can fit. And then they come and blacktop it. In front of Commissioner Donaldson's office, it took 5 working days to begin and end the project on a street 1.5 miles. By the way, I didn't examine that because your office was there. I go to the gym there. Okay, I'm not spying on where you work. 3 times a week I go by there and work out. And I noticed it because it was a project that took 5 working days. No sidewalks were built, no trees were knocked down, new striping was introduced, no parking spots were added. That's what an RRR project actually looks like. All right? That's what we should expect. Okay? As for the particulars of this resolution, it's always nice to plant trees.
Especially when they're free, right? Doug Hillman.
Doug Hillman, Dalton Place. I heard a number of things that really sparked my interest. First of all, it's a great project, and canopying more of the town is obviously a great idea, a great program. But what I heard was turning it over to the environmental board, clearly a great idea. That's what the board is here for. Excellent assignment for them, and they'll dig into it. To look for other organizations that we might partner with. And the thought of endorsing them with a resolution doesn't hurt. They're a great organization. Adding Highland Beach to the other towns doesn't hurt. Good idea. But what came to me after Commissioner Donaldson was talking was this really and clearly should be part of our 5-year plan. We should be thinking about longer term here, and how does this fit into what we foresee long term for our town? What organizations fit into what our vision is, and what is our vision? So I think that's part of what we were talking about probably last week. Where does it fit in our 5-year plan? How do we fund it? What kind of costs are we looking at? Which organizations? And that then fits into not just the environmental group, a board, also then flips over to the Financial Advisory Board. So that's how these boards start to come in, and of course the planning board fits into it. So that's how the boards start to fit into the 5-year planning project. So what you started to bring up just triggered to me, this is all part of our 5-year plan. So great thinking, and I can't wait to get on board here. Okay. And start working on it. So thank you.
Okay, yes? Katerina? Yes. She's on the board. Katerina's on the board.
Good afternoon, Katharina Braun. I'm member of the Resources Advisory Board. That's why I feel I should say something. I think it is, I guess we get the information about it and we can prepare for our next meeting to look into it. I have, what I understood is that this organization is looking at what belongs here, what should be planted here, what is right here, what is wrong here, so that in a kind of a hurricane situation, the wrong trees are not ripped off and all these kind of things. What is crossing my mind, and that goes with the 5-year plan, is for me, living on the ocean, it would be also then part of the whole deal to know and to inform and maybe to force what is planted on the beach. We learned here in a very interesting session that there are a lot of invasive species on the beach that doesn't help to preserve the beach. And if we do something in a 5-year plan or in what is right or wrong to be planted on the street, we should include the beach. Because it doesn't make sense to me to do the window dressing and not look what is on the beach. We tried it and we know a lot about the wrong things on the beach, and But maybe that group is having knowledge about that too. I do not know. So, but I wish we could include that in our discussion in our advisory board. Okay?
Oh, that's good. That's fine. Okay. Anyone else on this topic, or we'll go onwards? Any more commission discussion, or? Okay, Commissioner Seidman.
One more comment. I know it's our job to task the boards with direction, and this is something that we're not always specific about. And Commissioner David has been very remarkable about stating we need to be clear and give direction and be efficient so that codes aren't hanging around for 18 months. So, and I feel the same way. So would it be possible to decide today to task the Natural Resources Board with looking into overall a green policy, because houses are being torn down. There was one in the south end of town on the ocean. The lot is completely devoid of any green, and there used to be some nice trees on it. I know a gentleman in my neighborhood kept a single lot, and he kept a very beautiful 80-year-old tree on it and several other shrubs that make it look much better than just leveling it all with every tree. So couldn't we task them with a general policy, reviewing the ordinance and going forward with a green effort? In the meantime, folding that into the 5-year plan with the planning board and the commission, because we don't always give them exact directions, but I would like to do this. They're a very valuable board. I attended the last meeting because I was here, and I would just think that would be a good way to go.
You want to make a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Well, the vice mayor looks like he wants to speak.
You want to say something? Okay,
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead.
No,
But
go
you
ahead.
can make a motion and
Well, I
then you
make
have
a
the
motion
comment.
to task the Natural Resources Board with looking into an overall greening effort going forward and folding it into, in the long term, the 5-year plan, but encouraging our residents, plus adhering to the ordinances, to give us some kind of a guideline for a green plan, and looking at this organization and possibly others and giving us an assist on that.
That's a lengthy motion.
I'm sorry, I'm so windy today. I don't know what happened.
Just give it to the advisory.
Too much coffee. I apologize for being windy.
For capturing it in the minutes, it should be simplified.
I don't know what it is.
Wait, simplify it. Just say, bringing this over to the advisory, but put in your motion that they have to read the ordinance because it's all there.
Okay, let me edit myself. It must be the new pets we adopted lately. I got too many pets in my house. I make a motion to task the Natural Resources Board with looking into our overall green effort and existing ordinances and future plans, and working with community greening and any other they see fit.
Very nice. Okay. Okay. All right, but now we'll have a discussion on the motion.
We should have a second and then a discussion.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
You wanted to say something?
I was certainly in favor of considering groups like that community group. I think it's overreach to tell people what they have to do with their trees and their property. I think that's a horrible idea. Sometimes you remove trees because you have small pets and they drop little berries or whatever, and it makes them very sick. Don't want people the town shouldn't be telling people what trees you can and can't have on your property. Other people have allergies to certain type of trees. So again, telling them you have to have these certain set of trees in your property is huge overreach. So I'm horribly against that. But if you want to look at having a recommended list or something like that, that's fine.
Well, that is what I had intended. I don't like to order people around too much.
Commissioner David, any
Thank you.
comments?
Yeah, the only place I disagree with the vice mayor is when it comes to what's planted on the dunes on the beach side. And there, I think we should have the right to tell people they can't plant certain kinds of things. Encourage them to plant others, but specifically saying you cannot plant these invasive species because it destroys our beach.
I'm 100% in agreement with you on that. Actually, I did a lot of work on that when we had to replace the dunes in my previous community where I lived. And there's only there's actually this great guy who comes around, his name's Ron Barron, and he seems to know everything about every plant that's ever been planted on the beach and what it does. So I'm in agreement with you on that.
Yeah, other than that, I agree with you. You can't tell people what they can or can't plant in their backyards. That should just be a suggestion.
Yeah, Mayor, I don't want us to get ahead of ourselves thinking, what the board may be or may not come back to us with. All this will probably pretty much relate back to the comprehensive plan. So I view this more as a general mandate, and then we'll see where they go with it.
Well, this all goes back to some of our ordinances are from 1949. I say it every meeting, and they really have to be upgraded because it's all in the ordinance of what we're supposed to do and not do. But most people don't read it, so they don't know. And now we're getting a little tighter with it, with the permits. But you're supposed to have an architectural, architect, giving us a plan for the greening after when someone's building it's right there. But that's up to the environmental, maybe the environmental group could do that, Katerina. You could review the ordinances. We need updated ordinances, yeah. Yeah. Okay, now at
Mayor,
this,
if I might
yes.
also, because, to keep it within the context of all the comments that have been made, I was here when we had the last R project here. I am sure there are others that are sitting here today who were also here. Let's not undersimplify what that undertaking is for Highland Beach. I remember a rather extensive period of time where we were all crawling along at 25 miles an hour with flag people stopping traffic. It's not that simple. It's not a mile and a half of road out in an office park. It's something totally different. So let's not act like this is something that is just simple. It is going to be involved, and we need to be paying attention. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. So that motion, and any other comments from the commissioners? We'll just.
Can we get the motion reread again? I apologize. There's a few.
Okay,
I don't know what I'm voting on
motion.
yet.
Commissioner Gossett-Simon, can you read your motion over?
No.
Please.
Do you have it there? Linnell?
Commissioner Gossett-Simon, I referred to her.
I just did it off the top of my head. Let me try again. I don't think anyone wants to hear me talk anymore today.
That's okay. It's okay.
All right. Basically, a resolution that the commission would authorize our Natural Resources Board to look into updating our current ordinances and reviewing green trees and spaces for the future residents, that they be just reminded of what they are, not required. Now I can't remember the rest of what I said. We have it on record.
Yeah, they have it. It's on the tape.
Just to review our green ordinances and tree canopy and work with community greening and or other organizations to improve the health and well-being.
Basically, we're giving it to the board, the advisory board. We're giving it
So we're
to
asking them to review our ordinance and make a recommended
Right.
list? Is that what we're doing? Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
let's have a vote on this.
Okay, the roll call would be Commissioner Gossett-Simon,
Yes.
and I believe Commissioner David seconded that motion.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Donaldson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bobby,
Yes.
and Mayor Zellniker.
Oh, yes. of
Motion
course.
carries. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will continue. Okay, number C, approve and authorize Commissioner Gossett-Simon to attend the 2020 Florida League of Cities Legislative Action Days on February 11th, 2020 through February 12th, 2020 in Tallahassee, Florida, and approval to attend any future meetings related to the 2020 Legislation Action Days. Commissioner Seidman.
Yes, next week is the official Palm Beach County Legislative Action Days. There are a dozen senators and legislators that I was not able to see in my last trip. And additionally, I've requested a meeting with the President of the Senate, who with the Speaker of the House is ultimately responsible, along with the governor's final signing of basically putting through our requests for funding. One request has gone through, the other one is pending, and is, I'm told, look good, but as my contacts there say, it's not it isn't over till it's over, till the fat lady sings and all those
Not
little.
politically correct.
Oh, well, it's still in baseball, so.
Okay.
So, still counts in baseball. So I'm just suggesting that, again, at no cost to the town, because I have accommodations that I get up there and get around to see the other people who make a difference and see if we can't keep moving forward to help out the town.
Okay. Commissioner David?
Yes, I think that Commissioner Gossett-Seidman is uniquely positioned and capable of dealing with the legislature, as she has shown. The only change I would make is I would say that we should authorize her to do it for the 2021 legislative days as well, because she is good at this. She seems to enjoy doing it. And who knows what we're going to want to ask for next year. So let's let her use her connections that she's already made rather than changing it up. So let's do it for 2020 and 2021.
Okay, I'm all for that.
Thank you. You'll have to get a wish list together then for the next coming fiscal year. We'll see what we can do.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes, there are a great number of legislative items being proposed that affect home rule, and we certainly need a presence like Commissioner Gossett-Seidman there. So absolutely, let's send her up there.
Okay. VP?
Verbatim echo Commissioner David's comments.
Yeah, I also, there's no doubt about it. Peggy's very good at this, and one day she'll be a lobbyist and join me. Anyway, she's very good. Will you be there when they're going to be discussing the Airbnb? That's a big issue in the legislature right now. Are you familiar with all that's going on?
Oh, yeah, I'm following that, yeah.
You're following that. When is that vote?
I don't have a date. They set the dates usually Friday night or Monday early morning, so
Actually,
I check every couple of days.
Okay, that's a big
major event, right?
That's a major
very
event
major.
for all communities because the state wants to supersede municipalities, and they seem to be leaning towards do whatever you want with the Airbnbs, even overriding. They're talking about overriding documents in condominiums. Actually, I sent that out. Yeah, it's a couple of people. So that's something we would like you very much to keep an eye on for us. Yeah. Do you have more information?
I just wanted to clarify, you
Yes.
would like to see Commissioner Gossett-Seidman advocate in opposition to that House bill that has state preemption to our short-term rental or vacation rental.
Yes. But this motion now is going to be from Commissioner David to Center for 2 years. Okay. That has nothing to do with that motion, does it?
Well, perhaps if I could say, perhaps for the Airbnb, we could have Mr. Labadie draft an actual letter that I could pass out, because emails, they sometimes just click delete, 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 delete. So walk in with a piece of paper and hand it to them goes a long way.
I did send it to all the commissioners. Did everybody get that email about the Airbnbs? Yeah, this is really very important for our town and every small municipality.
If I could add one thing also, Madam Mayor. Whereas, I've been working this as best as I can, and I do have lovely contacts. There were a few things that Mr. Labadie wanted to comment on. Would that come with your town manager's report regarding the actual specifics of our current requests? With the color of lights and all that, would you
Sure,
like
I'll
to
give an
address that
update.
now or later? I
Dr.
didn't know if I
Greenwald's here
should
too,
bring
would
it
be
up.
interested in that too, so yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, legal question. For the attorney, are we allowed to extend a period of time like that, or do we have a one-year limit on commission actions?
You can extend it, obviously. It's hard to look into the future and see what issues are going to be there next year. So more conservative approach is take it a year at a time, but there's nothing illegal with saying it for 2 years.
All right.
Okay, so your motion is did you make a motion for 2 years?
Yes, I move that we approve and authorize Commissioner Gossett-Seidman attending the Florida League of Cities Legislative Action Days, both for 2020 and 2021.
Second?
Second.
Okay, second. Okay.
Okay,
Roll call.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett-Seidman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bobby?
Yes.
Mayor Zellniker?
Of course,
Thank
yes.
you. Motion carries.
Okay, we will continue. We are going to D, approval of meeting minutes. October 3rd, 2020, regular minutes. October 15th, 2020, regular minutes. November 5th, 2020, regular minutes. November 19th, 2020, regular minutes. December 3rd, 2020, regular minutes. I refer this item to the town manager.
The minutes?
That's what it says on my script.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you? Motion to approve.
Well, okay. Okay. Are there any changes to the minutes? Oh,
No changes to the minutes here.
yeah. Just the dates have to be, the year has to be changed.
The dates are wrong
2019.
on the agenda, but they're right in the minutes.
Yeah, they're right in the minutes.
They're right in the minutes, but they're wrong in the agenda. Okay.
Oh, sorry for the error. We will make sure they are all 2019. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
So 2019. Okay, are there any comments from the public about the minutes of the date? Okay, with that said, we need a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Very good. Roll call.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will have public comments and requests, agenda items that were discussed, and public comments are now open. All comments will be directed to the commission as a body. Please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. John Russ, please. What happened? Press the button.
John Ross, Casarina. It's really a question.
Okay.
Boca, I guess it's to the town clerk and her boss. So not to the commission. Boca has published a list of sites for early voting. And while we're not voting on a commission or any local elections, we will have a presidential primary. And I was curious where that would be located for voting on the election day, on primary day. If it's the church, will the gates be open for people to park? If it's going to be town hall, what was there? And will the early voting site that Boca has talked about, which is the library site, the old library site, be available for us to go for early voting? Thanks.
Okay, did you have any questions, any comments on that? No, it wasn't, it's a comment. It's all right, it's okay. No, it's an important comment.
The early voting sites are provided by the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections, and any early voting, you can go anywhere throughout Palm Beach County at an early voting site and vote during early voting. On the day of election, you have to go to your precinct. So if you want to go to Boca during early voting, you're more than welcome to, because it's open up to the entire county. We will get that. I have to download it from the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections office, and I'll make sure everyone get it. We'll e-blast it out and provide some.
Yeah. Usually, I tell people to go to the Supervisor of Elections, the office there, and you have early voting right in there. And there's no one there, there's no waiting, it's terrific. We've done it for years. I thought it's the church.
The church.
But what I think John is trying to say is we should post it on the website, or we can even send out an email, a town email advising people of the early voting, and that's absolutely right. Mhm. Okay. Wait one sec. Yeah, and the more information we give to people, the better. Thank you, John. Doug?
Doug Hill and Dalton. Just a couple of quick comments. We refer to the subject as Airbnb, and that's really a company and a brand.
Okay.
If I may, all due respect.
Yes.
The subject is short-term rentals.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so that's the generic for it.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing is, Vice Mayor, you were objecting to telling people what they cannot plant. And I agree, we should never be telling people what they can't do, other than enforcing the law, of course. However, we're in a hurricane zone, and there are some trees and some plants that just don't do well in hurricane, very short or high, whatever the right terminology is, roots and whatnot. And it would possibly do damage to neighbors' property, et cetera, and it's just not advisable to plant those, and they should probably be on a no-no list, okay? Also, there are shrubs, bushes, what have you, that attract bees and whatnot. And many of our properties are very close to one another, and if those are on property lines, that's going to invade other space. That should be on a no-no list. So I think there are certain, what's the term, species or whatever, that are just not appropriate here. So we might want to have a list, maybe we come up with the right terminology, okay, that are just not appropriate. So those are the two comments I have, okay?
Okay. Are there any other comments anyone would like to say? Nope. Being no comments, boy, this is an early meeting for us, 3 o'clock. Keep going, okay. Commissioner, all right, we're going to call on each commissioner separately for comments. Commissioner, and I would like to know, is Matt here? I would like Matt to be here if he's here.
So you're going to make the statements? Yeah, Matt's here. He's in the crowd.
Oh, there he is. I didn't see him. Okay. Okay, Commissioner Evelyn David, any comments?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Yeah. Commissioner Donaldson?
A couple of items. I monitored a webinar from the League recently dealing with comprehensive plan and elected officials. I recommend it to everyone. It's in their library. I did take a couple of screenshots next meeting. Hopefully I'll have enough time to just put together a real quick thing on a couple of the screenshots I thought were of particular interest to our community and how we deal with our comprehensive plan. The rest of the items I discovered, I have a thank you list. First of all, I want to thank the governor who engineered a remarkable purchase of land out in the Everglades this week. Goes very far toward hitting some of the policy goals of the urban League of Urban Cities on water quality. Certainly affects us even more directly where we live, so many thanks for that. I want to thank Mr. Shoemaker for the work he did again on the homeless investigation, something we just have to keep in our mind. I would add to all that Boca Helping Hands, which is a great resource to help people get their lives squared away again and give them that helping hand to move on. Fabulous, fabulous organization. Thanks to Commissioner Peggy and Representative Caruso for all the work in getting our funding requisition moved ahead. We'll keep fingers crossed. I think we're in good shape. That'll be great. And let's see. Thanks to Marshall and the staff, we have cleared out an incredible backlog of work. I know you probably have some room left on your whiteboard, but appreciate the effort for everyone here in the city staff and you. It's been amazing, the list that we've tackled and gotten done. So thank you. That's it.
Commissioner Seidman?
Yes, thank you. Regarding the trees, everyone's right. There are lists of do's and don'ts on the state website, so I'm sure they'll be looking at that. Some, like the ficus, are pretty much on the way out. Secondly, I will copy the commission. As I said, this is the 3-page double-space list of things we started tackling 18 months ago. It was really whittled down, so I also thank Marshall, Linelda, and his staff, Teresha. Thirdly, a very cool thing last week, the St. Lucy's Church hosted a Place of Hope countywide awards, and we had 2 county commissioners, Melissa McKinley, who won an award for advocating for assistance in human trafficking. A Place of Hope aids human trafficking victims, and shockingly, it's just not big cities such as Miami and Jacksonville, trafficking happens right here in Boca del Rey. I know the chief was there, and they are very on top of this comment. But also Bob Weinroth was there, our representative at the county level, and people in that business from all over the county. And I was invited, and when I was basically introduced, I represented myself as for the whole commission because I didn't know I was being invited by the church, but being a seating commissioner, I did state I was representing the commission. And we had commissioners from Boca, Del Rey, and other municipalities, and it was very nice to see our town showcased that way. It was quite a big deal. Apparently in our county, they have recovered 48 victims of international trafficking, and I know the chief knows a lot more about this, but it was an excellent event. Lastly, I wanted to thank the commission and the townspeople for support for these funding at the state level. I mean, there's a lot more out there, so we'll just go get it. Thank you very much.
Vice Mayor?
No report.
No report. You better feel better. You better drink some soup. He's sick. He has a cold. Okay, I have happy news. Happy news. And I would like Matt to come up and stand before us on the podium. Yeah, very happy news. Excellent news. Okay. I received a letter, and it says the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting has been awarded to the town of Highland Beach by the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. See, get a job in Canada. For its comprehensive annual financial report, the CAFR. This certificate of achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of government accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. So this goes to our town manager as well. An award of financial reporting achievement has been awarded to the individuals or department designated by the government as primarily responsible for preparing the award-winning CAFR. The CAFR has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure, to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the CAFR. And this was signed by the Government Financial Officers Association of the United States and Canada. And I really want to applaud Matt and our town manager. We appreciate all of your hard work, and I know when you came here, things were a little chaotic, to put it mildly. He really straightened out a lot of our books, and he deserves the credit. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other than that, when John Ross made his comment about the bicycle lanes, a little odd, because we have a lot of bikers in Highland Beach. Many people complain when they're driving with all the bikers are in the middle of the lane, and they're all concerned about, they're going in packs. They do drive and they ride in packs. It's the law, they're allowed to. So bicycle lanes are very important in Highland Beach, and we do have residents who ride bikes as well. I ride my bike, but I'm an old lady now, so I ride on the sidewalk. And when people complain that I'm riding on the sidewalk, I say, well, when I was little, I couldn't ride in the street. Now I'm old, I can't ride in the street. So, but people do get a little annoyed when you ride on the path, when they're walking. So we do need bike lanes, and we do have to get into the 21st century. And some of the laws have nothing to do with Highland Beach. These are state laws that you have to have bike lanes now. The fault lies for years and years and years of neglect when they were issuing permits, and they never should have issued permits for that area because it didn't belong to the town. It belongs to the state. So It's not that simple. It's going to, and yes, it will happen. Yes. FDOT is going to come through A1A. I only wish and pray that all of us are still here when it happens. So it's going to be down the line, and it will happen, and everybody's going to have to adjust to it. FDOT has to do what they have to do by the law. But we'll see what happens in 5-6 years from now. It'll be Mr. Hillman's problem. Anyway, on that note, I want to thank the town attorney, and if you had anything else that you would like to say, and I am very pleased that we are passing a resolution against anti-Semitism, racism, and bigotry. I'm very proud of the town. Thank you. And what does, nothing?
Nothing further.
Okay, and Marshall?
For those that are restless, I apologize. I do have a handful of updates. I just wanted to continue on what the mayor said. The work that Matthew did is quite amazing. It's understated to say it was chaotic when he came in, but he adopted an unmapped and undocumented program with the departure right at the end of the fiscal year. So I'm grateful that Matt was here to help not only me, but the commission through this. It was a remarkable achievement, and we're going to be aiming for it again this year with our audit process and financial reporting. So we're in great shape. Again, I always continue to say financially the town is in strong condition, health condition. We are financially stable and prepared for the future. We truly are. So with that being said, we're even more financially stable. Appropriations requests. Commissioner Gossett-Seidman, I think, has found a very good space for her talents up in Tallahassee. So we seem to have gotten great traction on our crosswalk dollars. So we'll be able to leverage our charter limitation. So this is great that hopefully when we open bids tomorrow, we can be comfortable that we could implement the entire project. That's going to be great. We're hoping that FDOT, I just saw an email come through, maybe there'll be one more maintenance agreement or some other type of arrangement we have to sign, but we're there. We're at the finish line. I know this was important. I do recall during my interview process, several commissioners were, this is very important. You have to get this done. So I'm glad that with the hard work cooperatively of the commission and the community, we're going to deliver this product together, and we'll have improved safety at our crosswalks. With that, though, there was some email exchanges. Dr. Greenwell, you identified that, where Representative Caruso had identified his desire or wish to take those rapid flashing beacons that are traditionally yellow and turn them to red. He truly does desire that because he doesn't find that yellow is adequate to safely stop or alert traffic. I had a very honest conversation with them that I didn't know that they could legislate that change because it's really dictated from the federal level on federal highways and state highways. The legislation, the way it is written on that House bill, we're fine because it does reference back to the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which allows the yellow and prohibits the red. But he would truly like to move in that direction. But I think he's got a little bit of a few obstacles with FDOT and the engineering staff there to do that. So he wants that. It doesn't hold up our money. Our project will be moved forward. I just think he's got on a side issue, I think he's got a lot more work to do on his end to change the minds of the foremost thought leaders in traffic engineering. I think he's got a lot more road to cover, no pun intended. Grand Court, everybody, 1006 Grand Court. So back in January, those that had contacted me were interested in what's going on with that project. I'd indicated that we have reached out and will be shortly reaching out. Ingrid did give them a review letter and stated our position. And in my emails communicating that, I said, if they move in the direction to seek legal representation, the process slows down. Lo and behold, they have acquired legal representation. The process is going to slow. The town's position has not changed. That will be communicated here, if not yet, shortly. Torsivia's firm has given us the strength to write a response letter that we are clearly standing behind our position that if they wish to build what you see there, a plan amendment or a permit amendment and some larger review by the planning board is required. and they have to clarify other pieces of information to us that wasn't clear on their first two. We've permitted this project twice. However, they have to provide some clarification. So we're in that process. So those that are adjacent and growing quite frustrated by it, we are working on it. But when individuals seek legal counsel, it does slow the process back and adds yet another series of steps to address it. We're working on it. We're on top of it. We're moving it forward. We're holding to our position. The next steps, it really depends on what and how they are going to respond. If they are going to hold pat, then we move to the enforcement side of it and or some type of litigation if it gets there. We're not there yet. We're hoping they'll see it our way, but that's what's taking so long is the posturing and responses. So we're still working on it, and we'll be getting that to come to an end. We did open a few RFPs that we talked about, the IT system. With that being said, we have opened the bids. We have the two bids that we got are the two firms that we thought would be. We thought others would. They haven't. There's a cone of silence now placed on the selection committee. Myself, Teresa, and Matt will be looking at that in great lengths. There'll be meetings that will be noticed to review that, so the public, if they want to come, can. But we're moving forward with that. The programming, we got a bidder on that as well. I know I've communicated to the commissioners, I'm just going to let the public know that when we did the true-up process on the fire contract, there was a reduction of costs of about $110,000 that will be coming back to the township. So the cost, last year when we did the budget, we said they were about 5.2% increase year over year. It's actually 2.5% once you factor in that true-up. So their cost increase to that fiscal year was 2% rather than 5%. The other issue I'd like to bring up, and I'll thank Matt again for finding this, we passed a fee schedule adjustment, and I'm going to particularly take your attention to the trash hauling costs. We moved it up about 50% because it hadn't been touched in 3 years to kind of recognize some cost escalation over time. Well, for the last 5 years-ish, Matt's nodding, condos on a unit-by-unit basis were to be paying $12 a unit. Well, the town had decided to charge $8 a unit. So when we went to implement the $12.50 that was approved in our fee schedule, we started to get a couple calls saying, wow, that number really jumped up on us because we had been billing $8 and we just went to $12.50. So what we're going to do is proportional administrative costs to the contract rate. So the condo fees aren't going to go up to $12.50. They're going to go up to $9. So we're making that adjustment to stay proportional and fair and equitable as the single-family homes and the townhomes. But for whatever reason, for 5 years or potentially longer, we hadn't been charging condos the rate that was established by a fee schedule. So to go from $8 to $12.50, I think we'll have a crowded room, and it really isn't justified by the contract amount for the condos, those being greater than 4 units together. So basically more of our high-rise and mid-rise condo units. So I made that change. Just wanted to keep you in the loop that we found that. We'll tighten it up with a modification to the ordinance and get more information to you, but we're going to chase back to that billing cycle. So we moved it to 9, which would be proportional from the contract rate that the single-family homes see on their rates. So for the condo folks, your managers may have fallen out of their chair when they got the bill. We are making a correction and getting that more properly in line with the intent of the fee schedule. Community greening, I know we were talking about it. I just don't know if people know that as part of Spring Fling, we are doing a mini tree giveaway to kind of test the waters with community greening. So those that wish to come to the Spring Fling, there'll be trees available for, if you will, adoption. And they go through their process of mapping that out and seeing where you track it and how it grows over time. And they'll have 3 different types that will be available with the residents. So we're going to do a real small pilot to see what the interest is of the community to do the tree planting. So those that are looking to put a tree on their property or condo associations that want to put a tree in, just come to Spring Fling and we'll have, until the supply runs out, some trees to give away to see if there's a community interest on that. That's it. I think that's
Okay.
Wait, make sure. So I covered that. Mr. Shoemaker, there's also, I'll get you some information. There are task forces on homelessness by the Palm Beach, Florida League of Cities. So there's a Palm Beach branch that commission usually gets communications. They have special task force that are available for elected officials to participate in. I think I might ask that maybe you want to have an interest in that, and I will get that communication to you. So with that, thank you.
Okay, before we end, I just want to say thank you to John Bowden, who's been working on the crosswalk lighting with me for over 6 years. And we're going to celebrate. I hope we have a big celebration. But it's going to happen. And to Rich Pollack, who said, it will never happen. It will never. You wouldn't believe it, you said. Okay, there being no further business, I call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
3:30. So moved. I need
So moved.
Okay,
Third.
thank you. Meeting adjourned. No, thanks.
I'm good, thanks.
Poor Greg, I could tell you're not yourself today. Do you have a fever?
No.
Because you're not yourself. Did I ask you for comments or no? Did I ask you to say the comments? I forgot. You did. I'm forgetting already. How do you like that? You got that big award. How do you like that? What? That award. Can you imagine? Remember what we used to have here?